Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hong Kong Horse Racing with the host, me, Jason Richardson, Hutchi, and the Hall of Famer. Hutchi, of course, with Hutchi's Honkers, absolutely killing it. 20 years as a great analyst and the Hall of Famer in Shane Dye. Hutch, lots to reflect on. A terrific weekend of racing. The rise and rise of Zac Purton. We'll reflect on him, and he's going to be a special guest soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure how much we learnt with regard to all those sprint, the mile and the cup last week, or the international trials, but there's a bit to divulge. I think it pretty much went to script, but there's a lot of talking points from all three races.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that we did learn is that Shane Dye refuses to give us a tip on Friday, yet the ones that he just gives us out wide end up saluting RS. Welcome.
Thank you, Richo. Yeah, got a bit lucky, got a good ride, stuck to the fence and just won. But more importantly, Richo, I went out shopping during the week. Now, I got you a couple of hats and the icebreakers to keep you warm. I got a light blue and a dark blue to match your suits. It'll just take the glare off the TV, mate, so I'll have to send them to you, okay? So that'll help you, and especially when you go to Japan. Now, icebreaker is merino wool from New Zealand, if you didn't know, and it's the warmest and best. So you'll be taken care of.
So we've got one New Zealand reference. We've got a bald reference on straight away. Hutchi, I don't reckon I signed up for this.
He's just as relentless, isn't it? One thing for Shane, he's like a terrier. He won't go away.
We've got racing takeaways. We've got Hong Kong Star Power with Zac Purton, our very special guest. We're going to have a look at the international races and some selected runners. Of course, the Jockey and the Viander Cross, the Genius and the Slaughter. We'll look at that. And also we'll have a little bit of a Hong Kong punting school, which I'm really looking forward to.
Lucky Patch is in front. He's a clear length over Naboo Attack, and Lucky Patch again. Digs in, then Columbus County. Reliable Team just in front, and Reliable Team. He's back Golden 60. It's a Ferrari against 6 Hong Kong taxi cabs.
Racing takeaway. Hutch, lead us away there. The Jockey Club Trials. What did you take away from it?
Well, I think we saw that Hong Kong will definitely not be competitive in the Cup. I think Golden 60's on track. That was an amazing win. Those are 2 brief points. And I think the sprint showed us that it's probably going to get down to barriers on the day. It was a nice enough win to Lucky Patch, which we'll probably dive into a little bit more soon. But, Lucky Patch was a sound win. The sprinters looked pretty even as we thought before. But, as we said in the Cup, that was a diabolical race. And the mile Golden 60 was great to see back. I'm not sure there was necessarily a highlight outside of Golden 60. It was just great to see a super horse.
Yeah, well, let's start with the sprint. RS, just solid win by Lucky Patch, or better than that?
Got a very good ride. He's riding very patiently, and that's the key to be successful in big races. Jerry is the kid, and it's all credit to him. He was too good. Courier Wonder did what I probably thought it would. I said last week it was a risk. I'm not convinced about him at all, but he still can improve. He had things go wrong. I think they're just so even. Anything can win the sprint. The only thing with the barriers, Clint, you said, I don't particularly take much notice, because on the A track come International Day, most winners come down the middle, and they normally sit 3 deep. Like, look at the winner last year that Ryan Moore rode. I think he had gate 14, just sat 3 wide midfield, come down the middle on 1. And that happens in a lot of years.
He had the best run in the race, actually. I mean, they were saying that he was 3 wide, but it was actually the perfect spot to be. He didn't want to be on the inside. But I think if you draw those middle gates and you have that first option to be in that sort of running line, it certainly helps,
definitely. And especially in an even sprint, which it will be. I don't know how good the Japanese horses are. You'd know better than I. But, they're just a very even bunch in Hong Kong, and any one of them could win.
And what about from a mile point of view? Golden 60, it wasn't a comprehensive win. Do you just give it a tick, a pass, or was it beyond what you thought?
Outstanding. He was outstanding. He did what I thought he would, as I said last week. Come home, and I think in about 21.5 or something. He got a very good ride. He looks the goods. The rest can't beat him. It's just a matter of whether the Japanese horses can measure up. Simple as that. And they probably always do.
So it was an amazing win, Golden 60, really. When you break down the race, it was literally two halves. I mean, they've absolutely crawled the first two sections of the race. And, those times are very, very slow. And I thought Blake Shin actually rode Southern Legend really well. He picked it up from the 800. So it wasn't, this in sprint where they get to the 400 and then they dash home. He started to wind it up. Golden 60's last 600 was 32.2. So he just can sustain 10.8s, 10.8s, 11 seconds. I mean, it's an amazing performance. So he's got this incredible turn of foot. It's what's intriguing for me now is you've got a few Japanese going over, and we'll dive into those later in the week. But how's the race won't be run like it was run on the weekend. I think he could go to another level in a faster race. So he doesn't necessarily have to be that far back, but there'll be a bit more tempo. But by the same token, he might have a couple of genuine Group 1 competitive horses. He can't be giving them sort of too many lengths start and think you're going to keep reeling them in. It becomes a mathematical impossibility. But he is a bit of a freak as far as those times. I mean, I thought he could be a bit vulnerable at the 600 the other day, and he still round them up. And it sounded like Shane that Vincent said after the race I got there, and he almost clocked off when he hit the front.
But he does that most starts, Clint. You have a look at all his wins. He gets there very quick. But it's impossible to maintain a sprint for 400 metres. No horse can do it. They do it for 200. I remember I used to ride Superimpose. He used to pick them up in 2 hops, but then he couldn't sustain it. And he was a superstar champion, won Cox Plates, won everything. This horse is very similar. From the 400 to the 200, he makes up 5-6 lengths in 2 hops. But then he battles, and it's just impossible to keep going. You said he ran 32.2 his last 600 metres. Yep. Horses don't run that.
Well, we've got a star power sitting in the waiting room. So before we get to the Cup, why don't we bring him in? And it's a great pleasure to welcome in champion jockey, Australian, but he's been a champion in Hong Kong, and hasn't he started this season in incredible style with already 40 wins, is Zac Purton. Zac, thanks for jumping on the line, mate, and joining, Hutchi in the Hall of Fame. I'm merely the host. I sit there and enjoy it all, and I'm enjoying watching you ride at the moment, mate. Welcome.
Thanks, Richo. I know how you feel. I'm a little bit of a passenger here myself with all this star power.
Don't you? You are the star power. What a start to the season. What do you put it down to, the good start?
Just the support. The horses I'm riding or have been riding have been ready. Danny Shum said in the off-season he wanted to have a good start to the season, and David Hayes clearly said at the end of last season that he wanted to have a really good season this season as well. So they just prepared their horses early in the season to be ready, and they were fit. They were fitter than the rest of them. And they just come out and won, and they were winning easy. And then I've just been able to build the support off that and pick up some of the other better chances from the other stables. And, it's rolling nicely for me at the moment, and hopefully it continues.
And you're looking fit and strong, mate. It looks like you're actually peaking physically as well.
I've actually been sick this week. My son had the upper respiratory disease, which has been going around Hong Kong, and passed it on to me. So I've been feeling shitty after the last 2 meetings, and still rode 6 winners. So look
Zac,
out when I do feel
if there's
good.
a virus going around, you'll catch it.
I catch everything.
That's a bit rich coming from a guy who's got a crook back. He's got everything going around.
I've had one of those as well. They're no good. They're not much fun.
Richo, one thing there that Zac's saying, it helps to be riding well. And Zac's riding very well and has from the start of the season. I think you're riding far better this season than you did early on last season, Zac, at the start of the season. And that helps a lot. And that's why you've ridden 40 winners. Yes, I know you got the support. But if you're riding bad, you don't get put on and you're not riding 40 winners. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
I tend to agree. I thought Wednesday you were on form. I thought it was you've been good all season, but Wednesday you really you had a really good night out. A lot of riders wouldn't have won on the couple that you won on there on Wednesday.
Well, barrier is a key at Happy Valley, and especially on the C+3 course. And I just got into the right spot, and that's the important thing at Happy Valley, just getting into the right spot. But to touch on your point last season, Shane, one of the reasons I didn't start that well was I come into the season with an injury. I tore my hamstring with about 2 to 3 weeks to go before the start of the season. So I was carrying that injury for a long period of time last season. I couldn't get it right. I was trying to get it treated. I was in a heap of pain, and I think although I was able to ride, I feel like I was putting too much weight on one side of the saddle compared to the other, and it was slowing the horses down a little bit. Whereas this season I've come into it fit and healthy, and obviously the results are a little bit different.
Let's go back to last week, and Shane, keep in mind that Zac's there as our very special guest. What were the jockeys doing behind Reliable Team in the Cup?
Well, in all fairness, there's not much you can do when you're on a horse like Glorious Dragon, because he pulls hard and you can't let him go. He wouldn't have finished it off. So he had no option. The race changed when HKIR Star missed the start, because he would have pressured the other horse early and they would have gone along. So, Panfield went forward, but he was very disappointing, Panfield. Don't know what happened there. But there wasn't much anyone could really do. And
you say that, Shane. I mean, they were absolutely crawling. I mean, they've run 2.5 seconds outside of standard overall. I mean, how slow they got to go before you take off?
You still got to have the right horse. Like HKIR Star, if he does it, and he did go forward on him, he's not going to run 2,000 metres out. He just won't. I don't think he will. He'll do it in a slow run race. So do you sacrifice him and really pressure? No. As I said, Zac's horse pulls very hard in a race, and if he lets him go forward, he won't finish the race off. He's got to hope they quicken.
What about Panfield?
Who? Panfield was up running second. Maybe he could have gone to the front because they were walking. It would have suited him, because he's 2,400 metres horse. I can't even think what else was in it and back.
Zac, take us through that race from your point of view.
Oh, it was frustrating. It was very frustrating. I felt like I got into the right spot. I was 1 out, 1 back following Panfield, who I thought was the horse to beat in the race. But unfortunately, Karras just didn't put any pressure on the leader, and he allowed him to run those slow sectionals. Not only did Karras pull the head off his horse, I was pulling the head off my horse because it was over racing. And then I was in two minds as to whether I should pull out and go. But in the back of my mind, I know that my horse is weak. He can't sustain a long run. He's not a horse you can make 2 runs on in a race. So I elected to stay in the position I was in. It didn't work. Obviously, if I had my time over again, maybe I would have tried something different, because what happened didn't work. But it was just a really frustrating race. You can forget the form out of that race. The leader won. Good luck to him, but it's hard to follow the form out of it going forward.
Will you ride him in the Cup? Is that one that you will be riding going forward? Will you give it? And if you are riding him, how do you think you'll line up?
Yeah, I think he's going to struggle. He's basically borderline not good enough to win a Group 1 here in Hong Kong. So when the internationals come over here, the Japanese and the Europeans, he's going to find it very hard.
So that's our look at the Hong Kong international races. We've spoken about the Cup. So you're scheduled to ride Glorious Dragon there, and we think there's going to be 3 Japanese horses led by Love's Only You. Aidan O'Brien will bring Japan and Bolshoi Ballet that have come through the breeders' meeting. Dubai Honor and McSwinney coming down from England as well. So that looks to be a really hot race. How does the rest of the international meeting look for you at the moment, Zac?
So in the sprint, I'm going to ride Lucky Patch. The only reason I didn't ride him last start, because I won on him the start before. I won a Group 2 on him. He had a tough run and still won. It was a very good effort. But I had to ride Naboo Attack last time because I was already committed to riding him. Obviously, I run second. Lucky Patch won, but I think Lucky Patch is a better ride going into the sprint. He's got more tactical versatility. He's racing very consistently, and if he draws a gate, he's some chance. The Japanese horse, Pixie Knight, looks like he's going to be hard to beat, but of the local horses, I think Lucky Patch is probably the best pick we have here at the moment, or the most consistent anyway. In the mile, I ride Waikuku. He ran really well, obviously beaten by Golden 60, who he's a superstar, that horse. I thought the way the race was run and how I was travelling when I come into the straight, my horse gave a really good kick. And I thought to myself, for a fleeting moment, I thought, geez, he's going to find it hard to catch me today. And as soon as I thought that, he went past. He was like a lightning bolt. He went past me that quick that I was just trying to hang on for a second there. But he's a solid chance. He's not out of the race. If Golden 60 has some bad luck, and, luck is everything in racing, then my horse is certainly a decent chance. And in the Vars, I don't have a ride at the moment.
Going to ask you about that in the mile, because you probably had the perfect run with Waikuku, the way the race was run, really. I mean, you seem to have your chance. And with the Japanese coming over, I mean, is there a scenario where you could see it a little bit more difficult for him, or a little bit more tempo and a different structured race?
But for sure, it could be structured differently. I haven't had a good look at the racing styles of the Japanese horses that come over here at the moment. But those horses can get out and bowl along at times, so they might put some speed into the race for us, which would be good. Now, my horse normally doesn't sit outside the leader, but by default, looking at the race, pre-race, there's no speed in it. My horse can jump well, so you put him in the spot that I put him in, and he had every chance in that race from there. But he probably is a little bit better if he's got something to chase. But you have to have a leader to follow for that to happen. But getting back to the Cup, Leipa Pal is going to run in the Cup, and she runs along. She gets out there and bowls along in Japan, so there's going to be speed in the Cup, and that will help Glorious Dragon. But probably, he doesn't have the quality.
You've got to be good enough to run him down.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, it's only a small field in the Vars, but I know our podcast is going worldwide. Who would you? Do you want us to put in a good word for one of the trainers internationally?
I'd love to be on Pile Driver. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think Pile Driver is probably the one. Listening to the trainer up there in Europe, he had a bit of a setback, so they specifically targeted this race here in Hong Kong, whereas a lot of the Europeans that come here have already had a full season, a full prep up there in Europe, and then come down to Hong Kong as a backup. But this horse has been set for the race, so I think he'd be hard to beat.
I wouldn't be ruling out Broome. Broome was the horse that ran in the Breeders' Cup on turf and was just run down by Yabir. Yabir had defeated a horse who ran really close to the Cox Plate winner here. So I think it's nice form. So Broome for Aidan O'Brien. I reckon Ryan Moore will be coming down.
I guess on that point, Richo, you'll be able to get a line on how he's going on Sunday. He's running in the Japan Cup.
Yeah, we'll get a really good line there, won't we? So from a COVID point of view, does that restrict all of your travel? Normally you'd be keen to obviously get over to Royal Ascot where you've been a winner before, or go to other parts of the world like Japan?
Yeah, it's been really frustrating. Here in Hong Kong, we've been stuck here for 2 years now, and the government has said that they're not going to relax the quarantine restrictions here until probably November next year. So by the time that comes around, I'll be stuck here for 3 years without having left Hong Kong. And I always enjoy my trips back to Australia to ride there over the spring carnival, and also going to Japan in the off season sometimes. Also, our horses travel to Singapore, Dubai, Korea, the UK. So, it's pretty boring here at the moment, just going around and around and around on the same two tracks.
Shane would like you to come down to the Gold Coast because he's got a new share and a bar up there, and I think it's going all right as well.
It's flying. It's like Daisy. It's flying.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Hey,
I'm sweet there. I'll get the number one cabana. No doubt about that.
You've got enough money to pay for it, Zac. I know that.
Hey, RS, I tell you what, we've got to get Hutchi into line. Describing that magnificent property that you have brought to the table as only a bar is a disgrace by him.
It's okay.
Hey, Zac, I know you've got to go. You've got to go training, mate. Just quickly, this weekend coming up, steer us into a couple of rides you're really keen to ride.
Oh, geez, you've hit me up early. I haven't done the form for the meeting yet, Shane. What am I? You tell me
You're on an unbeatable.
Oh, Jesus. I hate it when they say, you know what I hate? When they say sure winner. As soon as they say sure winner, it's the kiss of death.
No,
I'm glad you said unbeatable.
You know it too. Wait a sec.
Different terminology.
Wait a sec. I've got to get my sheet, boys.
Oh, hang on. So
I can't show you this.
We'll just chat amongst ourselves.
There we go. Race 2.
What was that?
Race 2 he wins for sure. Light of Wanchai. He trialled it the other day. Another jockey who was on the fence last start, got off the fence at the 600. If he stays on the fence, wins easy. Shouldn't have got beat last start. It was a huge run. You trialled it the other day, back it, run down the outside, gave it an easy trial. Its action was very good. It looked good. And I would be saying it'll be winning race 2.
Yes. The only thing that will beat him is a slow pace because he can get on the bit, and he's a small, weak horse, can pull himself into the ground a bit. So can you send those white gloves he used to ride in, send them over and I'll put them
Can
on.
I just give you a little bit of advice, Zac? He's got gate 2. And the times they've gone forward on him, what's happened?
Bow, bow. No good.
No good.
All right.
Be wary of that.
All this at no extra cost. Hey, just quickly while you're there, Zac, hit the shot. Obviously, he had Derby form from down here, so he's making his debut. Have you worked him at all? And if you have, what's the feeling on how he'll go?
Yeah, so I've ridden him in 2 trials here. I rode him on the dirt, and he seemed to go okay, but he's really, really one-paced. And then I rode him in a 1,600-metre trial here on the grass as well, and he just keeps galloping the one speed. He's got a bit of a high knee action. He carries his head low. There's not much that impresses me about him at the moment, but with John Sizer's horses, they can quite often trial a little bit average and then go to the races and jump out of the ground. So I'm not going to write him off, but he didn't really give me the feel the other day to suggest he was going to go to the races and win. So I'll be interested to see how he goes. I would say so. He's been off for a long time.
There's another ride you got there, Zac, that's just come across my mind. You don't.
So I'd set to fill up.
My Sugar.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very nice horse. Why can't he win? There's 2.
Well, he can win. I'm not bagging him. He can win. He's going really, really well. He's a last start winner. The form out of the race last start is strong as well. He's got barrier 1.
Perfect.
Send him to the front. We'll just roll along. Let him do his thing. Keep galloping. They've got to catch him.
Well, that accent's thicken up beautifully the more you speak to the Aussies, isn't it?
Actually, you should get a soft lead in that race too, Zac, which will help him. Because last time he had to run good sectionals.
He's not a sit and sprint type horse. He prefers to bowl along, use his action, and he can keep galloping. So I won't be going too slow on him.
Okay. Hey, Zac, you better get
didn't last start.
And it worked.
I think you ran at 20 something, didn't you, mid-race?
At least he found the right part of the track. He was the only one on the day that found the right lanes. The inside was off. He went straight to the middle and see you later. So it was a good win.
Yeah, he didn't go 15 wide around the corner like someone else.
Who was that?
Some Caulfield Cup comes to mind. Hey, Zac, just as we let you go, mate, make us feel bad. What do you have to do for training?
Oh, yeah, kill myself. Yeah, it's not great, but it's got to be done. You don't look this good if you don't work hard.
Oh, that's right. You don't look like that sitting around thinking about it. You better get to work. Thanks for your time, buddy.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Boys, do you want to go back at all and reflect on last week, or from an international point of view, now that Zac's finished up with us? Is there anything else to reflect on as we look forward to the internationals?
Oh, well, Zac's riding Lucky Patch. I think I can understand, Shane, why he's taken that option. I mean, he hasn't done too much wrong, and he mentioned tactical versatility. I suppose while the Boo attack was good, the Boo attack is one that you've got to leave alone. You're a victim of being ridden a certain way, I suppose. So I can understand why with Lucky Patch, he's a horse that could be a pair or two closer potentially. And I suppose, look, Wellington, Hot King Prawn, I know you were giving him a chance. He had a bit of an excuse. Courier Wonder, you might be right with him. What did you think late in the race there, Shane, with Courier Wonder?
He got lost. He ran about when he hit him in both hands. He changed stick and he got lost. I've never been convinced about that horse. I'm not saying he can't win. He may win. He might improve. He'd never got a good run the other day. He worked too hard early. He had to come across working with a horse dictating to him outside, and then he had to come to his outside. And they were going along. And as you could see, they were coming. The last two horses turning for home run second and third. The winner was running midfield wide. So, he had excuses and he could improve. But I keep going back to that race last year, Clint, the last race of the season. Group 3, he was not impressive. He had 12 pounds, 118 less than horses like Skyfield, Stronger, and he couldn't put them away. So why should he be able to do it now? That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I just thought it was his first prep. He deserves another chance. But the other thing with him, he's a half-brother. He might even be a full relation to Icebath, Richo, which we know from here. And Icebath gets up to a mile. I'm just thinking in the back of their mind, while John Size has kept Courier Wonder to these trips, Shane, is the possibility they might be thinking, well, I know we got Golden 60 over the miles, but maybe this is a horse who's actually looking to get up over a mile now.
Well, that's debatable. Could be. I think the only thing John's interested in at present is winning a sprint and getting them right. And he'll change a few things and do a few things. And look, I'm not surprised if he wins the sprint. But as I said here last week, I said he's not a $2.50 chance, And I priced him $7 or something, but I had him $2.50 on the market, knowing with Joe, John, and the wrap he's got, he would start $2.50. And I think he started $2.40, so I wasn't far wrong. But I would have been flat out backing him last week at $7. You know, that's my opinion. But come the sprint, I could have a different opinion. He may have a trial or do something or gallop well and change a bit of equipment, and he could be back in it. But I just think the sprint's very open. These back markers like Skyfield and Naboo Attack come into the race because of the A track. And anyone listening here, you've got to understand that this A track favours back markers wide, and it has for years. I've only ever seen one meeting on the A track that it favoured leaders, and it was an international day about 4 years ago. Remember that day they were all leading on the fence? That's the only time. Normally they come from back down the middle, and that just helps those back markers for the sprint.
You're listening to Hong Kong Racing with Hutchi, Hall of Famer and the host. And time for Genius or Slaughter, or if we've renamed it, Octagonal or Viander Cross.
Sweep for home now. Gatherno on the inside. Viander Cross has come very wide after him. Viander Cross in front of Mannerism. Viander Cross answering the urgings of Shane Dyer head in front. Mannerism coming at him. Viander Cross. Viander Cross looked to have the race won 100 metres from home. Mannerism has got it. Number 8, Mannerism has got the...
We start, of course, with the Ocky. Who was the genius ride of the week, Shane?
Well, I actually think this was an outstanding ride, and it was Vincent Ho on Golden 60, and a lot of people might laugh. He had the option to go forward, but you've got to understand that by going forward, you're going to ruin him for the future, right? Because he can over-race then, do things wrong. He had to go back, and he knew that. Now, when he went back, he was 3 deep, and he kept going back. But the biggest thing about him was at the 700, when Blake, who Clint was right, said he rode his extremely horse well, he quickened the pace. He got left 3 lengths behind the second last horse, and he never dug him at all. He just let him get into his action. And if you have a look on the turn where he is, he's 3 deep tracking at the 600 behind horse that starts with P, Ship, Paraship, whatever it's called. I forget. Pressure Ship, that's it, yeah. And he was tracking up behind him, and he only come out on the point of the turn. He was hard up, and I just thought he rated him and gave him a very good first up ride and let him come up the straight. Now, another jockey that does that with that type of horse that I reminded me of was Hugh Bowman. He used to ride Winks very, very well. And it's not easy to give these good horses the right run first up where they can improve for the future and not ruin their racing criteria, like going forward or back. You know, he had to go back. So I just thought it was a very good ride. It was a pressure ride, and he did everything 100% perfect.
And you've also put Joe in. Is Joe an Ocky ride, a genius ride?
No, it wasn't a genius ride because he had a good gait and he got a good run on the fence. But Joe on Wednesday night rode very well in most races, as you can see here. He gets across. This horse is $1.40. It looked like winning. And he was on the fence, 3 back, and he hugged the rail. Now, on Wednesday night, for the first time in a long time, Joe hugged the rail a lot. He hugged it on a horse called Loyal Baby, I think it was, in race 2 or 3. Got beat, was favourite, but he gave it a perfect ride. And he could have come off the fence down the back, and he didn't. But this ride here, you'll see he's 3 back, and this is how you got to ride Happy Valley. You don't want to be coming off at the 700 to go 1, 2, and then 5 wide on the turn. You hug the rail, and I thought Joe was far, far better on Wednesday night. What did you think, Clint?
Yeah, no, he rode well, and he did stick to the inside. I mean, this rail was in the C3 position. The problem for Joe is that Joe was riding that way a lot when the rails were in different position, and the inside wasn't a great place to be at the Valley often last season, and he kept going back down in there. But it seemed not a bad spot to be the other night. He was on the right horse. I agree with you. I think he rode really well. He must have listened to the podcast last week and just taken a couple of things on board.
Well, I only tell you how it is. The thing with Joe, though, he's not a bias rider, Clint.
No.
I grew up with bias, and most Australian jockeys do. I don't know what it's like in Brazil, but I rode to biased all the time. Joe rides horses to their ability and goes out there, doesn't care what's in the race. I would go out there in a Mick Dittman or a Jimmy Casti or whatever, and we would be looking to get the favourite beat. How do we get that beat? Joe doesn't worry, not that we're riding, but the opposition, that's what I'm saying. if I'm on the second favourite, right, how do I get the favourite beat, right? Then you can win the race. Joe doesn't think like that. He doesn't care what's in the race. He goes out and rides his horse the way he thinks it should be ridden and forgets about everything else.
Yeah.
And because of that, he hasn't worked bias out the way a lot of the Australian jockeys do, because we're brought up on it, I think.
And you don't get it as much. You get it in Hong Kong, but for the large portions, it isn't really there. I mean, Shane's mentioned the A course. That's spot on. It can be really inside off there. I think most horses still get their chance, but you can get some real differences late in the season and all that. And we've seen bits of it through the season, but I couldn't agree more with Shane.
Yeah. Enough of the niceties. Who's the slaughter? Who's the Viander Cross?
There was 2 in one race. Now, this is quite funny because this may not have been a jockey, but I don't do replays. If we stop it here, see the horse on the outside, Leap of Faith. Chad Schofield's on it. Now, I had this horse going back last, and he went forward on it. Why he went forward, I don't know. It might have been a trainer error and John Sires telling him to go forward, but John doesn't make mistakes. He's a genius at riding instructions and knowing how horses should be ridden, because he worked for a bookmaker punter as previous life, and he's very good. I don't understand why they went forward on this. Now, I don't do watching replays after the race. I watch it during the race, and my first thing was, what the hell are they doing on that? It's got no hope of winning. As soon as they went forward, it couldn't win. 2 starts ago, he pulled very, very hard, right? In an 1800. The only thing I will say is last year he went 1800 at Happy Valley. Joe rode him. He was 5 wide midfield and he went to the front out of the straight. He had no option and he won. Maybe they're thinking that, but it was definitely the wrong instructions or a bad ride, and he weakened and he actually ran pretty well. Now, the other horse to look at here, and it should have won by a minute, and it's coming up, is on the fence there. It was a certain, Chevalier Lad. Now, this is what I've been saying. Why would you leave the fence? He's following Helene Amber, who's $5, got a good chance. They've gone along. You know he's going to get a run on the inside. And he comes off the fence at the 700, which I was glad because I backed Endangered behind. Now, that's a good ride, Endangered. He's back behind there. And he got the run through. If Chevalier Prince had stayed on the fence, he wins easy. But he come off the fence at the 700, run into a brick wall, couldn't get out, lost about 4 lengths, and gets beat ahead. My horse is behind him on the fence, Endangered, stays to the fence, gets the best run of all time and wins by head, and shouldn't have won. It was.
I thought you might have given the instruction, Shane, but I'm with you with Chevalier Prince. Chevalier Prince is like that. They'd only just tried him over 2000. He got the journey, and he's going to be a horse definitely to stick with. I actually put him on. We do a little review on Hutchie's Honkers, and he was one of my horses to follow because for the reasons that you've outlined, but also he's shown now that he gets the trip. So there'll be options for him to win more than one on the rating that he's at.
What was your performance of the week?
Well, there's a very smart horse called Master 8. He's now won 4 from 4. He is. We backed Nervous Witness. I'll explain a little more later why, but the market did change a little bit later. And this guy, he put up a number. I rate them all the Hong Kong races, obviously, but he's rated within a length of the Hong Kong Sprint on the same day. That's not weight adjusted, but it is distance adjusted. So this guy's right in the game. He was excellent. He's now 4 from 4. I think we've got a little caption. I'm not sure if we've got it there for the moment, but I had him rating to a number of 89. Now, the sprinters on the day I had rated about 90, so he's right in the game. What's an interesting one with those ratings that I put together when I review all these meetings, Nervous Witness we backed, and he ran to a 97 on my stuff when he won second up. But his other 3 runs are on the low 80s, but he's definitely regressed. I thought he might go back to a little better figure with the drop of 6 kilos. I wasn't sure what to make of the performance, Shane. I mean, he's clearly off the best where he was Nervous Witness, but his best run and win rated like he is a group horse. I noticed what we brought up about Hazy he's 1 from 50, his last 50 now. What do you think's happened there?
He's not going as well as he was, the horse. I read somewhere that they're going to run him again in 2 weeks. Is that correct? I read that somewhere. There's a race for him.
Yeah.
If he's going to China, he's in a paddock, and you start again. because if he goes around again, he may win, but he's not going to be impressive. He might run second or third. He's not going to reach the peak that we thought he was going to by racing again. So I think he's a very good horse. So my opinion would be which means nothing because I'm not the trainer or the owner. But if it was mine, he's out at China in a paddock for a month, freshen up, bring him back, start again. And then you'll know whether he is the real deal or not. By keeping racing, you're not going to find out whether he's the real deal or not.
No, because I've got him, Richo, I had him like 4 lengths basically off his top. But his other 2 runs have all been similar. So is that his level or he just sort of, has it taken a bit out of him? I think what Shane says is right. And we're not going to learn much more in a couple of weeks because if he runs to that sort of level again, as Shane said, he might win one. Maybe he wants 1,200. Maybe controlling a race, he'll be different. But he's nowhere near what we saw at that second race start where everyone just went, wow, how good is this horse?
But even his first start, Clint, he was like that. His first start last season and his first start this season, maybe he might be a fresh horse, but he's gone backwards, that horse. You know?
And we're not hindsight heroes because this is actually an issue that you both raised last week when you were, Shane, you in particular, were a bit concerned that Hazy was going to push on with him even for last start.
Yeah, like I just would have put him straight out.
So did you risk him? Did you back him on Saturday, Shane?
Not a hope in the world. I didn't back the winner, though. I stayed out of the race. I didn't like it because I know if Nervous Witness had produced his best form, he wins. He beats the other horse, I believe. But I know how good the other horse is from day one. And they were like even money, both of them. So what's the point in trying to pick the right winner when you don't know? I stayed out.
Well, on that graph that we showed, Richo, you can see the progression. I've got Master 8, 68, 70. Like his curve's going that way. The other horse is sort of, he's always been at a high level, but he's coming back down that way. And it's a strange profile for a horse. They've both only had 4 starts. One's gone up and down. The other one's continued that trajectory. But ultimately what it shows is there's 2 horses here that in Hong Kong that they'll get there. Cordyceps 6, who's been a bit of a straight course horse, but also Master 8. He's right in the game. By the end of the season, you'll see, I think, both of those horses competing with some of the better sprinters that are there. Mark my words.
Richo, what Master 8 will do is what Courier Wonder did last year. Just go through and he'll win one of those group races or 2 at the end of the season. Very similar. And then they come back the next season, and have a crack at the international sprint. Very similar.
And we always hold ourselves accountable, Hutch. So can you explain, you were keen to still play with Nervous Witness on Saturday?
Well, I was, because...
Can you explain why?
The reason why is, as I mentioned, on my ratings, when we had him running that bigger figure, I thought, well, he can run, if he runs 2 lengths off that and 2 lengths better than he did at his disappointing run, I've got him running around that 90, which the winner of the race has run 89. And Master 8 had to go up another level, which he's done. But Nervous Witness with 6.5, 7 kilos less, he literally ran to the same figure on my stuff his last 2 runs. So I just felt that, he might not run at his best, but if he runs to that sort of figure, just a little bit better than what he does with a weight adjustment, he's a good bet. So I marked him $1.60. There was late money for him, but he had every possible chance and wasn't any good.
Can you educate me, both of you, in regards to when I sit as an audience, and a lot of our audience are the same as me, when we're watching Hong Kong racing, can you take us through the class systems here so we can get a real good understanding of it? Because you both spoke last episode about horses making their way up, and the Casper Founds was the example you used. Casper's got all these horses going through the grades and lots of wins, and now they've found their level. Can you take us through the classes?
I'll start off with what's a little different to Australia basically is that when you start your racing career in Hong Kong, you begin your career in class 4, which is a bit like a 64 or 70 here benchmark. And you're going against seasoned horses. You can't kick off in a maiden and then progress. So you, as an unraced horse, you begin your career on a rating of 52 in class 4, and then you go up or down. Now, there's a lot more. The handicapper in Hong Kong allows a lot more leniency in terms of probably a penalty if you win, but he also drops them quickly. So you go up quickly and you can come back quickly. But there's a lot more manoeuvring than there is in Australia, for example, in terms of your rating, which I think is a good thing for markets and buoyant, because you can come back to a mark where you can win. But ultimately, you start in class 4 and then you progress through the grades. But you don't have an easy kill in a maiden or something like that. You are going in against seasoned horses that might have had 25, 30 starts. And then, so it's not an easy thing to do, go there and kick off and bring out a winning sequence. And then basically, so you start on 52 and it rises all the way up to class 1, which is effectively 100 rating plus, and then you're getting into the group and class. But I think that's basically it, Shane. I mean, is that it in essence? It's a little tougher if you're unraced there because you're going in against more seasoned opposition.
Yeah, that's true. A quick way for everyone to learn is there's 20-point spread. So think of numbers. So class 5 is 40 and under. So when you're on a 40 mark, you're class 5. Class 4 is 40 to 60. They're the only horses that can run in that race. That's like a 1 win to maiden race in Australia. Then you go to a better class, which is class 3, which is 60 to 80, right? And they're normally progressive, or horses that are normally coming back from class 2 and not good enough. Class 3 is a bit tricky. Then you go class 2 better again, which is 80 to 100, and then you more or less go class 1, which is in between 90 to 125 normally. Once you're in class 1, they're group horses more or less in Australia, or group racing. That's the way the system works.
I mean, Lucky Patch has done nothing wrong, and I've got him around $9 or $10. But look, he goes from having the pattern in his favour, but he is fit and he's racing well.
Lucky Patch is in front. He's a clear length over Naboo Attack, and Lucky Patch again.
Do we just cheer Golden 60? Shane, do you jump in at that sort of price that we're seeing?
I see he's $1.50 in Australia. That's overs. He shouldn't be $1.50. He's $1.20 chance. That's just overs.
He's back Golden 60. It's a Ferrari against 6 Hong Kong taxi cabs. He's too good.
Best bet of the day. California Spangle later on the cut.
Speedy Mouse into third, but California Spangle, he's a serious racehorse, this guy.
A horse that was racing well, but it's in a very hard race, might be a bit of odds. Entrusted. 2000 suits it. It should have won last start for sure.
Entrusted on the rail. Chevalier Prince out at them late. 3-way go. Entrusted's in front. And Entrusted.
Love it. Hey, since last week, Shane, are you going to start doing your form a bit stronger on a Friday now after last week? Can we put you under pressure to do that?
It takes ages. You don't realise. You start on a Thursday. It takes me about 2 hours to do a race. There's 10 races, so there's 20 hours straight away. And then I've got to go back over things. So, I'm spending 3 days. But actually, I'd done the second race, and that's why I know. But Light of Waishu, it's going to be very hard to beat on Sunday. Very hard to beat.
Shane, I mean, obviously, I just mentioned about I do some ratings. I obviously like the video replays, but if there's one element that you concentrate on more, is it video replays for others that don't know? I mean, there's lots of different ways to do the form.
Everyone's different, Clint. See, I don't watch replays after the races. I know a lot of my friends and form experts, Sunday night, Monday, they're doing the day before replays. I don't watch replays until they're racing again. One, I haven't got the time, and it's a different race, so different circumstances for me, the way I do it. But no, replays are very, very interesting. Barrier draws at Happy Valley, to anyone out there listening. There's different tracks at Happy Valley, and the barrier really affects different tracks there. As you know, like once you start getting to the seed track and you draw outside of 6 and 7, geez, your chances are limited unless you know you can get across. So, barriers make a difference. Then you go to Sharton, A track. So the first race of the day, when it's the A track, it's Sharton. I'm looking for horses back and wide for value, because most people want to back leaders, as you know. The syndicates all want to back, computer teams want to back leaders. So you can find value on different tracks when you're going against the normal trend.
Sunday is for Hong Kong racing. And we plucked 2 races for us to look forward to. Shane, you'll be more on generic thoughts because we know that you're still a work in progress in regards to your form. We'll start with race number 7. Hutch, lead us away.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting race. I mean, you've got Lucky Express, of course, that Zac rides, which is, he's coming back. It was a great ride from Zac, wasn't it, when he won first up? I've just got real queries around all that form, and I know Excellent Proposal was the one that obviously had a bit of an excuse in the way things turned out, but it's a very, very sort of similar feel to what we had in the Panasonic Cup. And I haven't really gone through it in great depth as of yet, but I've got a little bit. I mean, at first glance, I can tell you that Lucky Express, I'm not convinced about him being a miler. I know John Sides haven't sort of competed him last year up over the Derby distances, but he was a horse called Prince of Sussex here, Richo, which you remember with Matt Laurie. And I think he might be a 1,200-1,400 metre horse, actually.
Get back run on sprinter as opposed to
fresh. I think he's a fresh horse. He Shane mentioned that he trialled unbelievably well leading into that, and I wonder if he'll just come a little bit off that sort of run. So I'm not sure what the betting will do. I haven't priced it up yet, but I'd be probably looking to go around him. And I think the horse that Shane spoke about last start, Excellent Proposal, you'll see a fair bit of improvement out of him. He's 2 from 2 second up. He's got the other profile, and he's drawn a soft gate. Morera will probably get on the back of he'll get a lot more economical run this time around. So at first glance, he'd be the one that I think could really run a lot better.
Richo, the thing in this race, there's a lot of speed, a lot of pace. They're going to go very fast. And the horses that are going to struggle running the mile, they're going to the first time, like Voyage Warriors going to the first time. What else is in there? Buddies will go forward. What else have we got? There's a couple others. Silver Express will be forward. But I thought they'd go pretty – King Shield, who's a dirt horse. His grass form's no good, but on the dirt, he flies. So he'll be going forward. So, they're going to go along. Excellent Proposal, as Clint is right, has got a great record second up. Very, very good record. And Clint may be right about Lucky Express because last season, second up, he ran well, but didn't go as well as first up, and he's second up here. Wouldn't be a surprise if he won, but wouldn't be a surprise if he ran 3rd or 4th. The roughie in the race, just quickly looking at it, that could go better with the pace on, is a horse called Not Unusual Talent. He'll be probably 20-30 to 1. He's a roughie in the race that could go better. Got held up the other day. And when the pace is on and he gets back, he can hit the line. And with only 120 on his on his back with a lighter weight, if they're coming back to him, he won't stop. He's a roughie, but no good thing, just a roughie.
Yeah, I'm just backing it anyway, just in case.
No.
Why not?
I'm just saying, you want a roughie, he's a roughie.
Mate, I love a roughie. Don't worry about that. We're at race 10, Hutch. We dropped to class 2 here, 1,400 metres.
Yeah, I think that, Zac's going to be hard to beat on My Sugar. I mean, I underestimated this horse a little earlier on how good he was, and I loved hearing what we heard from Zac earlier. I won't be going too slow on him because he doesn't really have that turn of foot. He sort of runs him into the ground a little bit, and he's won 4 of his last 5. The form around him is pretty exceptional. Last start, he came out and beat Master Hero, won the other day. There's other horses in behind that are going to be pretty dominant. Senor Toba's actually in that race, which is, he won't be ready for Casper first up, but of course he was runner-up in the Queensland Derby, and he's. I thought his trial was actually all right. He might surprise a few how well he does run, and given that the ranks over there have a bit of a tripper depleted, he might be one that could certainly do well. But look, I'll be marking My Sugar favourite, and Blaze Warrior is going to be a genuine contender there. I've just got to work out how those two line up against each other. And I would imagine, what do you think in this race, Shane? You think Joe goes and tries to sit outside Zac, who might take it up on My Sugar? Is that the sort of map that you'd be thinking?
He's better off back a little bit than pressuring, because if the other horse turns it into a fast run race, he may not be able to sustain it ridden differently. That all depends, but there's not a lot of pace in it. My Sugar's going to lead, there's no doubt. They're the two horses. Casper's horse, you are right, Senor Topa, is it?
Yeah.
He ran second in the Queensland Derby, won the Sir Frank Packer Plate, and he trialled 10 days ago and looked good over a mile. It was a very good trial. He'll get back and run on. The only thing wrong with that, Clint, with him and Hit the Shot, who ran second in the Victorian Derby, none of those horses have done anything in Australia.
No,
but
against their own generation, they'll be all right there as a 4-year-old crop this year. But I think Senor Toby will do better than Hit the Shot. I think Get the shot a little bit more dour.
Yeah.
And I think Senor Tobo has a little bit of a turn of foot.
He looked like it when he trialled the other day, so he'll get back and run on. But My Sugar's been very impressive. He's going to lead on him, you know that, and he's going to be very hard to run down. But if he is going to get run down, of course, as you said, Blaze Warrior's the one. He'll be fitter from his first up run. First up, he peaked about, I reckon, 80 metres out, like he looked as though he was going to win and just come to the end of it. So he'll be fitter.
Hey, just looking at the international week in Hong Kong, interesting news that's bubbling around at the moment, yet to be confirmed, but I think I might be able to scoop us into the right area here. Looks like James McDonald's just going to ride on the Wednesday night. Won't stay to the Sunday for the international meeting. So he'll do the Jockey Challenge Wednesday night, won't do the international meeting because he, A, can't get the right rides, and B, because he needs to get back to Australia to allow 2 weeks to ride on Boxing Day, Coolangatta, to keep riding her from a Magic Millions point of view. It's a bit of negotiation going on, I reckon, with the Hong Kong Jockey Club, but there might be some news for us.
Wow.
That's true. He's got to get back to ride her. She's the Golden Slipper winner, Richo. Just go, mate. She's outstanding. She's one of the best 2-year-olds. I've got a fair idea on the 2-year-olds early on. She's one of the most impressive 2-year-old winners I've ever seen. I put it this way: if I was still riding, I'd be on her by now.
So just for those who don't know, Shane, how many slippers did you win again?
Oh, I can't remember. I lost count. I've got a few here. I've got a few around my neck. There's a few slipper winners there. See, boys?
Yes, I can see them.
Yeah. But no, I was very impressed with her, Richo. She'll win the Magic Million. If she comes back and repeats that and the time she runs, she can't get beat in the Magic Million, you wouldn't think.
Well, if he waits for the Sunday meeting, then it would be day 13 for Boxing Day. That's a day short, and he would miss out on that ride to keep on her as her lead-up run for the Magic Million. So watch this space. Best bets from you, Hutch, and then I want a quick comment from Shane on a couple of big news items here in Australia. But best bet, Hutch?
Well, best bet for the weekend will be Whiz Kid, and I think it's ready to win. It was a bit disappointing in its last run the other day, but I think his first 2 runs for me rated really well. I don't know what happened the other day. Maybe he just put in a flat run, but I think back on the all-weather track, Joe, he'll ride him positively from gate 3, go forward, and he'll be very hard to beat.
So at hutchieshonkers.com with all the assessment. And Shane, last time on Saturday, with a Hong Kong influence or an Asian influence, because he's done a lot of riding up there, last time we see one of your compatriots in Glenn Boss in the saddle. A thought on Glenn Boss?
Very good big race rider. He, I've always said that from day one. There was two of them, but when he got in a big race, he rode horses where they should be ridden, and he was very patient, which is the key to winning big races. And he wasn't a vigorous rider. He wasn't strong in a finish. So the horses like the Macavadivas and all the good horses he rode, when they were getting to their grand final, whether it be a Golden Slipper or Melbourne Cup or Cox Plate, they had nice runs leading up to it. And his record speaks for itself. And his rides on Macavadiva and the Melbourne Cup were amazing. You know, you just don't get that every year. So no knock on him from me in big races. He was very good. And I've always said that.
Yeah, he was an extraordinary jockey. And also, we said farewell to Mahogany. It was an era that you rode in and that you were the star of the sport.
Yeah.
What a horse he was.
Whether it be 1,000 metres or 2,400. I beat him in a Cox Plate on octagonal.
I know you did.
Yes. But, geez, when he won the VRC Derby, he won by about 8 lengths that day. That was amazing. And then, of course, he come back. I think he won 2 Lightnings, one with Mick Pittman and one with Greg Hall.
Yep.
And then, he was an incredible horse. It's a shame, but it's going to happen to us one day, Richo.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought so, mate. I think
we're all going to pass one day.
We're immortals, Hall of Famer. Hey, as always, a lot of fun, Shane. Thank you.
Nice chatting, mate.
Shane, we'll get one of these for you. It's one of Richo's nice wines that he's kindly sent. So we'll get a couple of those set up for you to throw behind.
He's even got wine.
Yeah, he's got wine. We're going to put it on. We're going to put it on the cabana for you.
Is there anything he doesn't know and doesn't have?
I've got gin too. We can get that organised for you.
Next, you'll probably have your own beer.
Nice 4 Pillars gin coming your way. I think they're potential sponsors of this segment, I would have thought. Jane, as always, brilliant. Hutchi, good luck this weekend, both of you team.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Good luck to everyone.
Brilliant stuff. Hong Kong Horse Racing Podcast. Thanks to our great supporters. Hutchi, the Hall of Famer and the host.